Hello everybody, thanks for stopping by. Welcome from a very, very wintry Saddleworth right now. Big drama show at the weekend with the storms. We've had trees down, snow down, pylons losing cables and shooting Tesla lightning beams into the air. It's been a tough weekend, complete power outage for 2 days, but we troop on. It's what we do with soldiers, we keep going. So I've been here tucked up nice and warm, working on this Cayman S, this Porsche Cayman S. Big job. You know it's a big job because the tablet's out. A lot of work to be done on this. If you don't want to see the read through, just skip to the next chapter. But I want to explain what we're doing because there's a ton to cover on this one. It's a lovely car overall. Caymans are awesome, great colour, metallic black. We all love them. We all know what's going on. But this has had a very, very hard life. Okay, so there's a lot going on with the car, as I've said. It has lived its life, or a portion of its life, under trees. That much is very clear. It is covered in birdlime etchings and sap damage. If you've ever seen sap damage, it's almost like pinhead damage all over the surface of the clear coat. And the bird limes, the stains and the etchings are everywhere. So before we do any machining, before we do anything like that, we've got to get this car stripped down, clean, deep cleaned, right into the pores to get rid of anything organic or inorganic that's hanging around. So thorough wash, pre-washes, strong washes. We're going to use the Meguiar's Wash Plus because it's got abrasives in. Obviously we're going to follow the chemical decontamination, fallout and tar removers that we always do, and then give it a very thorough claying. It's important that we do this. We need to draw out any of those bonded contaminants and get rid of them so that they're not ending up in my pads when I'm polishing it. So all of that's got to happen before we do any of this. It's booked in for a modified dual stage enhancement. I say modified because most of it we can get away with just doing the 2 stages. But the bonnet, the roof, parts of the bumper, they are so badly stained that we're going to have to deal with probably each one of those individual etchings on its own. Then I would imagine we're going to have to rotary and wool all of those horizontal panels, then even them out with microfiber and then refine them. So they're going to be getting, 2 stages with isolated work, or even 3 stages in parts. So it's mostly in for a dual stage, but it's modified because we're going to have to go heavy in those other places. So that's dealing with the bird lime and the sap. We've got some other stuff going on. We've got some repaired panels. The colour is pretty good. I don't think that we're going to notice the differences in the end once the defects are removed and we're polished and refined. But because they are painted, obviously we've got the flatting marks and the holograms that we're all used to now where those panels have been done. We've also got a couple of blend lines, which is unfortunate. They're not the best, but they're not the worst. So I do think that I can even those out quite well and get a good finish on those. We've got some paint touchings to do around the rear mostly, behind the rear wheels from stone chips and so on. In an ideal world, the bumper would be painted again. Unfortunately, that is one of the panels that's had some paint work done, so I'm getting some paint mixed up. Fingers crossed I can just touch those in and make them look better. Whole goal for this is make the whole car and everything on it look really, really good, rather than specifics looking perfect. And then of course we've got the regular defects to deal with that you would expect on a few years old black Porsche, been valeted, the usual swirls, scratches, etc, etc. Going to pull the rear badge off, because the rear badge it needs replacing, and it's so badly damaged around it. I've got to pull it off anyway, so we'll pull it off. Hopefully the owner will buy a new one, we can stick that back on. I did intend to reuse it, but it's just so tatty, it's not worth it. They're cheap. Pulled it off. Hopefully we'll replace it, and then we can chop out just all of those regular swirls, regular scratches. If I can get the whole car to that 85% level, I'll be happy. The owner will be over the moon, I know that. There are some deeper scratches, very isolated ones, that are too deep, that I'm not going to be able to get rid of. But again, if we can get this paint mixed up, if I can try and put something in them, just make them look better, I will. Oh. Apologies about that, another delivery. Where were we? So next up, glass. Nothing fancy. No serum oxides, no rayon pads, nothing like that. I'm going to stick to the plan. We're having a full ceramic package here, so glass has got to be prepared. Machine with stiff foam pads and regular paint compounds. That will do a very good job of pulling out all of the ingrained dirt, removing any of the abrasives, will rip out any of the film that's sitting on the glass. I do this with every glass coating job. It's on every video. It works brilliantly. So I will just machine all of the glass up, wipe that down, and that'll be ready for coating. Nice and easy. Trims. If you own a Porsche or you've worked on a Porsche, you will know you will know the woes. Unforgivable plastics. So the scuttle is faded, and the mirror surrounds by the pillarless windows are faded. Makes the car look so old when they're like that. When you treat them properly, it just takes years off the car, right? So take the wipers off to just allow me to get in the scuttle a lot easier. Clean that, wipe it down with a solvent, a panel wipe, and then we will coat that to get a relatively long-lasting dark finish. I don't want it to look like it's dressed with, I don't want to name names, but those horrible tacky tyre dressings, so it looks like a sticky, hard sweet, you know. Nice satin finish, deep, just doesn't look old, doesn't look stained. That's the look we're going for. That'll be perfect for me. Wheels have been refurbished, and it is a mega job. Probably the nicest finished refurbished wheels I've ever seen. Proper, like absolutely proper. So obviously they're coming off to be ceramic coated, and that's great. So again, before we even do that, while the car's outside being washed and decontaminated and everything, we're going to jack the vehicle up so the wheels drop, so we can get as much space around them as possible, and we're going to clean the arches up, clean them with APCs and brushes, blast them out, tar removers, just do whatever we need to do to make them look. I'm not going overboard. I'm not going to get the steamers out in here. It's not in for a full arch detail, you know, we're not dealing with the suspension and all that kind of stuff. I just want that undercarriage to look uber clean. Maybe I can get a dressing in it. While the wheels are off, I've got to do something with the hubs. They are very rusty, only surface rust, but they just look horrible in comparison to the wheels. Again, I'm not going to go overboard. I'm not taking them off to get powder coated or something. I'm going to wire brush them up, sand them, just make them nice and smooth. We'll clean them off with a brake cleaner. I will get them nice, and then I will paint them in I've got an anthracite lying around, so I'll use like an anthracite caliper paint, which I just think will match the finish of the wheels perfectly and just make everything disappear into the background. And those, each corner then will just look really well finished and nice with the arches done and everything. It'll be finished off lovely. Interior, nothing crazy on the interior. Deep clean on the leather, put a dye blocker on afterwards, clean any of the plastics with APCs, give it a good hoover, and then clean the glass out internally as well, just finish it off nice. Pillarless, so you know what they like, they drop every time, so it's a bit awkward. You need to really get inside the car, clean the bottoms, open the door, clean the glass including the tops, you know, but we'll get it looking as good as we possibly can. Whole thing's getting coated, so we're going with Zeus on the bodywork and the trims. Titan do have Flex Ellis, which is a trim specific coating. I think Zeus is brilliant on trim personally. It has just the right look for me. It lasts, it beads, it doesn't stain very good, it doesn't suffer from water spotting very badly. So for me, that Flex Ellis is great and we'll definitely use it, but for this one it's just going to be Zeus on everything. KKD R-Evolve on the wheels. Again, other wheel coatings are available and I know some people prefer them. It's kind of a hotly contested subject, but for me, bang for buck, R-Evolve is just the best wheel coating that you can buy. That's just my opinion, but that's what we're going to go with. Glass will be done with a new super secret, cannot tell you or even give you a clue, glass coating that I'm testing. Something we might take on at a later stage. I'll keep that under my hat for now, but we'll see how that goes. So what we got? Wheels, trim, paint, glass. Leather, Dr. Leather dye blocker. If you've never used the Dr. Leather wipes, again, as bang for buck maintenance product, the Dr. Leather wipes are just hands down, this is my opinion, hands down the best I have ever tested. They smell of leather, but they're not over the top. If you use the Dr. Leather dye blocker, the wipes work perfectly with the system, but they're so cheap, they're so easy, they're always available. You need not look elsewhere. If in doubt, buy the Dr. Leather wipes, job done. So yeah, internally we'll clean it with APCs because we need to deep clean this leather, but we'll put the Dr. Leather dye blocker on, done. And then the details, centre caps on the wheels are wrong, so more text, I apologise. Centre wheel caps are wrong, so when I take the wheels off, we'll take the centre wheel caps off, we'll leave them, and the owner will bring new ones when he comes to pick the car up. Registration plates, take them off and leave them off again. He's got new ones coming for when he comes to pick it up. I'm going to twist his arm to get a new Cayman S badge for the back. Like I say, I was going to reshell, put new adhesives on that badge, but it's so tatty. By the time I pulled it off and polished the paint and coated where it goes, it's going to look crap. So new badge hopefully, and if he doesn't bring one, hopefully he can source one at a later stage, put it on himself, dead easy, no problem. And then that's it. It's just a question of documenting everything on the video. Big ramble, I know, I'm sorry, I didn't want to take up too much time, but like I say, when this comes out, you know it's a big one. I'll try and document every stage as best as I can without being overly boring. I know most people like the correction side and the coating side, so I will try and focus on them as always. Products, we will find out, but I'm going to guess it's going to be a mixture of Cayman H901 or perhaps the 3D ACA. Let me see. ACA 510. I was almost there. I was going to say 501, but I was almost there. ACA 510 for the heavy work and more than likely it'll be Sonak's perfect finish to refine down with. Other finishing polishes are available, and I have lots that I like, but there's something about that perfect finish. If it's working, if it's on point, it's just mega. If not, again, it'll probably be the 3D ACA, the other refining products, which I can't get the number of either. It'll be probably one of those. No primer polishes this time, just straight up, good finishing and ceramic coating. So let's get started. I hope it's a good one. I hope you enjoy it. Any questions, as always, drop them in the comments. I always try and reply every time. And I'll see you on the other side. Let's go.
Things happening in the cage super fast. If that's not something that we can see improvement in these next fights that he rests, I think it's time to call it quits for Herveen.
I like that. Mark Radner's assistant sitting cage side. You know, maybe we could just put him. Maybe we could put him in the booth. Like a lot of Eloquent being used in Florida. Their cyborg goes out and destroys Sinead Kavanaugh in the main event of the team for the title. No one really surprised by that. No disrespect towards Kavanaugh, but that's always the men's sport.
Like this, total damage control mode. I think that was using high
Crown brushes.
I think I wrote that one, actually.
Oh, you did that? Okay. Wow. Yeah. It was weird to go back and watch that.
And Paul directed it and shot it.
But let's move on for now. But something to keep an eye on as more information, gets released. And obviously, our license you
can read a little bit about their, their business profile, but they don't, there's not really a statement about Church's Chicken. And now this reminds me of that time we were looking through New York to find fake buildings. I wonder, was it a front for something? Surely not, because Chicken Guy's girlfriend went there on a regular basis for years. Someone was just, for some reason, it appears, pretending to be a Church's Chicken.
That is Giancarlo Esposito, I believe.
Yes, it is. That's exactly how
Yes, major shout out to Far Cry 6 and anybody who's playing that right now, because he plays the big bad.
He's all stand up in it too. It looks like him, the character, which usually it's just the voice actors, but they've been doing a lot more likenesses. What's that other one? With the guy from Walking Dead, where he's very much up in it. Death Rising or Death Stranding, something like that.
That's Stranding. So, I'm not sure how to segue back to Church's Chicken, but I am going to...
Beautiful of a resume as has ever been created. Evander was a 2.5 favorite. Vitor had to leave a weight class that he was preparing for. And then Vitor whips his ass. And people were down on Vitor. They weren't down on Vitor. And they really didn't think that Evander looked as bad as they tried to retell the story and said, well, he never should have been in there in the first place. What it was a representation that if we accept what happened to him, Evander, who is a much superior athlete and superior specimen than we are, and if it happened to him, it will happen to us. And we wanted to be able to cling to a denial. And we lost our ability. Vitor took that ability away, the same as Tito took that ability away. And when you look at the Ronda story, you don't see a lot of fighters that land on their feet. She did. She's happy. Not only did she fight another career, she's happy.
The democratically elected government of Guatemala in 1954.
Insert oil company here.
And which is also the same year that Stalin's situation, with the advent of nuclear weapons, right? We know that would trigger other countermeasures from other countries, and then there would be a war. So this to me is the most frightening thing. What happens if a terrorist group somehow gets a hold of a nuclear? You can find our episode on him by checking online for the business plot, which was a
Yeah. Crazy story. Really interesting. Okay, so another thing, just speaking of people trying to take over, banks perhaps have a hand in any of this.
Right, and this is something that we hear often, the idea that high-level investors and banking gurus know what will happen geopolitically before the average person.
Okay, sit rep. As I've said before, shooting in 4K really does destroy your batteries. And secondly, these wipers are going nowhere, so I have put them back together now that I've realised that the battery's gone dead on the camera, and I will just clean up the WD-40 and wipe around them. I am not prepared to break them, just to make coating easier so they can stay put, and we'll crack on. Okay guys, small update. Very happy with how this is going. Rotary and wool is definitely the way forward. I know you're not used to seeing this except for jobs that you perceive as previously being done badly, but we're really trying to achieve something here. We're trying to get in nice and deep without scouring the paint too much, and we are achieving it. So if I can just bring you in, hopefully autofocus doesn't fail me. So this is what you'd seen earlier. I mean, it's just deep. The sap has been eaten into the clear coat, and the bird limes were they were hideous. And that is coming out brilliantly. Flakes there. I know you've got the holograms, just look through the holograms. Rather than having like a matted out finish like you might get if you really push your luck with a random orbital, we've got gloss. We've got nice sharp bulbs. We're getting rid of all that funk. And those holograms, although obvious, are very, very shallow, which is good. This is what we want. I will probably do an intermediate stage just because it's black. And we want to do our absolute best to tighten everything up. But honestly, you know, we're going from that to that. So we'll just track through. Boom, that's where we start to change. Very happy with that. I will finish this side now. And then I'll probably do that second stage before we send the car up. And then we'll crack on with the rest of the vehicle. Hopefully the paint will turn up ready for those other bits as well.
predict ahead of time who's going to respond and who's not going to respond.
Well, also, because of you're dealing with different therapists, you're also dealing with different personalities and different bedside manners, different people that have different skill level in terms of being able to navigate conversations with people.
That's true, although we train all the therapists.
Right, but they're individual human beings. You can train people all day long. If you train 7 people how to be a computer coder, you know, there's going to be varying skill levels.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that the FDA required us to do was to look if there were site-to-site variations in the results.
Site to site in terms of geographic locations?
Well, yeah, so we have 15 sites for phase 3.
Right, but you're dealing with what I'm saying by geographic, like some places would have good weather. Some places have terrible weather.
Well, this is more just about the therapists.
Okay.
So are the therapists at these different sites? Okay, so we have 2 sites in Israel, 2 in Canada, and 11 throughout the United States.
That's a big difference geographically, right?
Yeah, geographically, but, you know, in different languages, but the CAPS-5 is translated into multiple languages.
How people feel.
Well, you could say it's subjective. It's an hour-long interview of the patients reporting how they're feeling.
Right.
Yeah, so in that
But
sense.
it has to be subjective, right?
Well, we don't know biological markers either. That's the other part. I mean, we have done some fMRI tests before and after and showed reduction of activity in the amygdala.
Interesting.
So that people are having brain changes. We analyzed the data, was that there were no site-to-site differences that were statistically significant. So what that means is that there are these individual variations in the different skills of the therapists, but that we think that the effectiveness of the MDMA is, in a way, equalizes, like a great equalizer.
Right, because it's so potent.
And our method is to empower people to heal themselves. So it's not like we're thinking, okay, great therapist, you're doing this healing work. So of the 8-hour session, roughly half the time, in no specific order, people's eyes are closed. It's not visual like LSD or psilocybin, but it promotes this imagination. It's like inner storytelling, very metaphorical. I mean, one of the veterans was like the warrior part of himself that he came back from Iraq with that he couldn't trust. He locked up in a cage inside him.
Oh.
And this warrior would reach out of the cage and try.
Lyndon Johnson in there with FDR, but you have Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We're like coasting off of the little bit of help that we got from the previous generation from the Great Depression. You know, like Biden did those $1,400 stimulus checks, the one-time $1,400 stimulus checks. That's it. It's hard. Like all the impacts of it are already done. It was a one-shot of adrenaline, and people are going to go right back to where they were before.
Well, they were done pretty much right away.
Yeah, they came out like that.
What did Trump? How much did he give out?
Trump wanted to do 2,000. I think he ended up doing 600, and then Biden was saying, "I'm going to do 2,000," and then at the last minute he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to do 2,000," but Trump already gave 600, so I'm only going to do 1,400. There's that little sleight of hand move, which is so fucking weaselly. It's so fucking.
Oh, it's so strange. It just seems like if there was any time to pull this country together during the pandemic, was the time.
I mean, I say it all the time. There's a few issues I think that really would unify Americans, and I think somebody should run for president on those particular issues. So the first one would be, we need a new version. They are, and the U.S., because our leaders are stupid, what did they do? Think about what we've been doing the past few decades. I mean, the Iraq War is the big one, right? To do an illegal war based on lies, kill minimum 200,000 innocent Iraqi civilians. So we're dropping bombs everywhere and pissing people off and further withdrawing from the world in a sense. And they're doing the opposite. They're building bridges, quite literally. They're talking to more people. I mean, they're just more intelligent in how they're trying to expand their empire. I'm against empire as a matter of principle. I don't think the U.S. should be one. I don't think China should be one. I don't think Russia should be one. Whatever. It's all bad. But the way that they're going about it is just more logical in that it's going to have better results in the long run. And that's terrible for the United States.
No, it's terrible. And I think that during COVID, it was probably pretty bad too, because a lot of companies, they bought controlling stakes in, they started buying into the stock market in a big way.
We really need to bring back manufacturing here in a serious way. I think it was a real horrendous, corrupt decision when the government decided to do NAFTA, decided to do permanent normal trade relations with China, decided to do all of the terrible so-called free trade deals that they did, which are really outsourcing deals to enrich the corporate overlords and send overseas all these good-paying jobs. And as a result of that, it's been a race to the bottom. And now you have, I just drove across a lot of this country. You have dilapidated place after dilapidated. Did I say that wrong? Dilapidated? Dilapidated?
You said dilapidated?
Yeah, my brain's not working anymore.
Dilapidated?
It's dilapidated. There you go. You see all these towns are just crumbling and the jobs have been outsourced, and you see these things that have been left alone for decades, and you think, this doesn't have to be like this. This was a choice made by the corrupt politicians to outsource the jobs for more profit. They'd rather pay somebody pennies on the dollar in Bangladesh than pay an American worker a living wage and give them health care. So, I mean, you have to fix that. If you don't fix that, it's going to continue to be a race to the bottom.
Perdiendo mi mente, no feel it. I feel it. Don't cry, we gotta live before we die. I'll vivir antes de morir. Yeah, you're gone, but I'ma just do my best and try. Doing my best to hold up at night. Perdiendo mi mente and I feel it. Distracciones como I need it. Yeah, it hurts so much, but I need it. I need to feel it. Las cosas en la vida siempre duelen. Solo tenemos una vida. No lo pierdas. Si necesitas llora, llora, llora. Las cosas se mejoran. La vida no llora por ti. Me rompió el corazón cuando te fuiste de aquí. No sé si me está escuchando o si me está viendo a mí. Vamos a brindar 25 tequilas por ti, para recordar los momentos que pasé junto a ti. Y siempre hay pensamientos de ti. Mami siempre llora, pero ella está en tus manos, celebrando en tu alma siempre. Pero todavía lloro por ti. Perdiendo mi mente and I feel it, feel it. Solo tenemos una vida. No lo pierdas. Si necesitas llora, llora, llora. Las cosas se mejoran. La vida no llora por ti. It's the hardest pill to swallow in the moment. When I'm looking at you, time stops and it's stolen. Praying you will come back, but I know it's just a minor delusion. I'm losing. Pero tenemos que seguir hasta que no podamos. Yo nunca lo olvidaré porque yo sé que te amo. Me duele perderte, duele perder. Perdiendo mi mente and I feel it. Distracciones como I need it. Yeah, it hurts so much, but I need it. I need to feel it. Las cosas en la vida siempre duelen. Solo tenemos una vida. No lo pierdas. Si necesitas llora, llora, llora. Las cosas se mejoran. La vida no llora por ti. Perdiendo mi mente and I feel it. Distracciones como I need it. Yeah, it hurts so much, but I need it. I need to feel it.
Showed improvements herself. I thought her fundamentals were a little bit more solid. She did a good job of stopping those takedowns. I thought that Misha was able to get on top. I thought what has favored Misha for sure. She wasn't successful in that realm, and it was a close fight, but certainly had Ketlin Vieira winning there.
You had a great week, by the way. If bettors had put $100 on all of your selections, your only miss was on Misha, plus $527. You're making the listeners money over the last 7
There we
weeks.
go.
But as far as Ketlin Vieira is concerned, Obviously, we'll be back at 3 consecutive shows here in December, the 4th, the 11th, and the 18th.
Brazil, Chile, Mexico, India, Philippines, Peru, Panama, Norway. Not seeing the United States. Just putting that out there, not seeing the US. They don't seem to be a part of this organization. So, this organization that does not have the United States within it, or at least as a member state, has said that the United States is backsliding. It is a backsliding democracy, as in it is deteriorating, things are happening, and it is being pushed more towards an authoritarian or hybrid state, as they would describe it.
I think we could have told you that.
Well, maybe that's the way it feels. To me, it perhaps feels that personally, just when I look out at events and how things have been shaped and changed over the past, several decades that I've been paying attention. Sure. But to see it put out here in a report that is fairly extensive, if you read the entire thing, you can find on their website, it is a bit alarming. It specifically points to 2019 and 2020 as being a flashpoint for a change that has begun to occur within the United States. Specifically, they're calling out the words and actions of President Donald Trump upon losing his second term election and having a sitting president who's on his way out questioning directly the results of a democratic election within a country, right? Within the country that this president is serving. You know, that's maybe one thing, but it is also, I'll read you this quote. Kind of an alarming thing to have a president question the results of an election, because then that makes everybody else question it. And this is not casting aspersions necessarily directly at President Trump. It's just that occurrence, no matter who was in office or who was questioning the authority of the democratic process,